So here's a question. Do Amazon reviews make or break your decision about whether to buy and or read a book? We'll discuss. For many readers, whether you buy a book or not can be contingent largely upon how that book is reviewed on Amazon. But is that a good judge of whether or not you should buy and or read a book? Here's a book that had me questioning whether or not Amazon reviews are something that you should pay a lot of attention to. See if you can read it right there. The book is titled War as They Knew It. It's about, if you're not a football fan or if you're not a sports fan, it probably is not going to mean a whole lot to you. It's about Woody Hayes, the former late Ohio State football head coach, and then Bo Schembechler, the former late great Michigan football coach. Both coaches were great in their time. And it's War as They Knew It. It was about the rivalry between Michigan and Ohio State in football. And if you're a college football fan, you know about Michigan and Ohio State. But the important thing about this book, for the topic of this video, is when I heard about this book first, I was really interested in reading it because I knew a lot about the writer, who's Michael Rosenberg, who was a Detroit media personality for a number of years. And so I knew about him and I knew he was a good writer. And so I was very curious to read the book. Not only that part that he's a good writer, but also the topic of the book, which was, a look, a perspective on the Michigan-Ohio State football rivalry, and two coaches that I find very intriguing, Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes. And so I thought, man, all the pieces are in place for me to read this book. It's going to be really good. But I said, let me go and check the Amazon reviews first before I actually pull the trigger on it and go and get the book. I was pretty sure, almost 100% sure I was going to get it no matter what the reviews said. And that's typically the case for me, unless it's an unproven author, and then maybe I might weigh some reviews a little bit more heavily. But in this case, I went to look at the reviews and I saw a lot of negative reviews, and I was actually really shocked. And so I'm going through it and I'm seeing all these negative reviews that just kind of had me taken aback. Because again, I knew about Michael Rosenberg. He was a good writer, and I knew that he was certainly knowledgeable about the subject that he was writing about. And so I kept reading on and on and on, and then I started to get to some of the positive reviews. And then there was a review, I remember, and I don't have it right in front of me, but there was a review of someone who was basically saying that the people who were giving negative reviews had a bias and that they were just nuts and they weren't people that had actually read the book, or they were people that read the book but had a bias of some kind, or people that just flat out had a bias and did not read the book. And so I started to read through a few more, and you could tell the difference of the people who were just putting that out there either as a spam type of thing, or as someone who had an agenda against the writer or against the newspaper that the writer wrote for, or just agenda of whatever kind that some of these reviewers had. And so I started to realize that when you look at reviews, it's important not to really get tunnel vision on any one or two reviewers or any one or two reviews. It's really important that you examine the full depth and breadth. And so that means you might read a low rating, like a 1-star rating, or you might read a 5-star rating. But chances are you really want to read the full spectrum. That doesn't mean you have to read every single review, because there could be hundreds or thousands of reviews for a particular book. But you definitely want to read a good cross-section of the different ratings. And so you don't want to read all 5s and you don't want to read all 1s. You want to get a good mixture to help you get a good feel for what the story is all about, because different people have different agendas. Sometimes people will review a book because they think there's a particular negative agenda. I'll give you another example. The James Patterson Bill Clinton book, The President is Missing, which is a book that I'm actually reading right now. And there were a lot of people who were anti-Bill Clinton or anti-Clinton family in general, and they were given a lot of negative reviews. And I saw that not only on Amazon, but also on James Patterson's Facebook page. And I thought, well, it doesn't really surprise me that people would do that. But then you would kind of weed your way through the negativity and the partisanship and the biases, and you start to get to the root of the people that actually read the book and we're giving intelligent reviews based on an objective look at what the book is actually all about. And as I started to read the book, I think I'm getting close to about 60% through the book. I'm a slow reader. But as I started to get through the book, I said, man, this is a really good story. It's a very well told story, and I really enjoyed it. And the same is true for War as They Knew It. As I started to really get into reading this book and I ignored the negative reviews, I found that I really liked it quite a bit, and I ended up reading it and really enjoying it. And so it's important that when you look at Amazon reviews, you take them with a little bit of a grain of salt, that some of them are going to be negative because people maybe have agendas of some kind or another, or people have biases. And so you don't want to lock in just on maybe reading the first review, or you don't want to just get locked in on just reading the negative reviews, and you don't want to get locked in just reading the positive reviews. Take a look at both and try to get a good, true representation of what this book is all about. But if your gut tells you that it's a good story, if it's a good book that you want to read and you're really interested in it, don't let some negative reviews deter you, because you could be missing a book that is actually really, really good. And I can think of several times that I've read books that had negative reviews, but they ended up being really good stories. And so one thing you might learn the hard way is that if you relied solely on reviews, you could be missing some good indie authors that have great stories to tell, but don't have the powerful platform that some of the mainstream major writers have that work through literary agents and major publishing houses. And so keep an open mind and be careful how you judge books based on Amazon reviews, because they can be a mixed bag and they can lead you down a wrong path that could take you away from a really good book that you probably should have read.